we need to talk about NATO. And if I had more time and more sponsors, nudge, nudge, I could make a much longer and really in-depth video about the history of NATO and some of the horrific things that they've done over the years and the ways that they've attempted to sort of undermine and set themselves above the United Nations and been damaging to peace processes and been a part of all sorts of atrocities. But let's just talk about exactly what is happening right now. Keir Starmer's first international trip as Prime Minister was to the 75th anniversary NATO summit. And I just find it really weird for starters to imagine them all like kind of celebrating 75 years of an organisation that has killed thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people. Like, oh, little smoked salmon, oh, fish and chips in a tiny cornet. Delicious. Yeah, so what F-15 fighter jets are we sending to ravage unsuspecting parts of the world at this stage? That in itself is sort of disconcerting. But what Keir Starmer did at that summit was not call for peace, was not call for disarmament, call for a step down in international nuclear programs, call for more talks, call for more opportunities to educate about peace and for more support for international refugees who are being moved around the world as a direct result of all these conflicts. No. What Keir Starmer did was he urged members of NATO to up the amount of money that they spend on weapons. So NATO has set this target of 2.5%. It used to be 2%, and now it's going up to 2.5% of GDP for all member countries to be spent on weapons and defence. Right? And first of all, this is just money going into the pockets of the big arms manufacturers. And apart from anything, one of the things they do with that money is they spend it lobbying for increased arms spending, right? They lobby in their own interests. And of course that means discouraging governments from putting tight controls on where weapons can be sent. It means encouraging governments not to go to peace talks, but instead to get further and further embedded into pointless wars and dangerous situations, killing civilians over issues that should simply be negotiated between leaders. He's committed the UK to doing that as well. 2.5%. That means every time you earn or spend 40p, Keir Starmer is basically taking a penny of that and spending it on weapons. Some of those weapons are being sent to wars that you undoubtedly don't agree with. Some of those weapons are being used to kill people who you undoubtedly don't agree with the killing of. And even if they're being stockpiled, all that's happening is that the money itself is going to the arms dealers and it will be used by them to promote war and to promote arms sales. Even if it doesn't work on us, there'll be parts of the world where that lobbying does work, and there'll be individuals, civilians, innocent children whose lives are lost as a direct result of that. We need to tell Keir Starmer that this is totally the wrong approach. It's 2024. We have ways of negotiating, we have ways of being reasonable, and we just need to stop this aggressive escalation of every situation that we see. We need to be calling on Netanyahu to stop his campaign and to start participating fully in peace talks, recognising Palestine. We need to recognise Palestine officially. We need to call on Zelensky and Putin to sit around the table. And we need to be a part of that peace process internationally by upholding what the International Court of Justice and the United Nations are saying. And respecting what goes on there, rather than trying to form our own alliance and then force those in it to spend more and more of their money on weapons and on military spending. Meanwhile, we apparently can't afford to do things that are simple and urgent, like scrapping the two-child benefit cap, cutting tuition fees, funding our NHS properly, things that are also killing people that we're not spending the money on. Yeah, and speaking of which, send me some more money. I'll make a much longer video about this. But in the meantime, see you next week. Increasingly, the mainstream media is terrible at informing the public of what is really going on. I'm only able to make these videos because people are generous enough to sponsor me making them, and if you're able to be a part of that, I would hugely appreciate it. It can cost as little as $1 a month, and you'll get loads of fun bonus content and lots of extras from me and my undying gratitude. I also massively appreciate it if you're able to like, share these videos and let people out there know what's going on.